Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm gonna quickly show you how to make a simple grid count sheet for your bullet journal. And this one is my old sheet. It's a bit boring and looks pretty tired. Since it's time to make a new one, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you how I make it. So this old one is a full-size page. I cut off the edges, but it's still nearly the same as my journal and it's a bit too big. It can fit into the back pocket of my bullet journal, but not smoothly. As you can see, I still have to be very careful not to wrinkle the page, and that's probably why it got so scruffy so quickly. Sometimes I just ended up leaving it out somewhere until eventually I lost it. But this time I'm gonna cut the sides in half, more like a bookmark or a ruler, and hopefully that'll make it much easier to use and store. So let's get started. I just cut out a page from another journal that's exactly the same as my bullet journal. I use this journal for random things like sketches, pen testing, swatches, etc. So it's very informal and I don't mind cutting through pages. And now that I have the page, I'll mark the middle point first so I can fold it in half. I'm not gonna cut it because I need the double layer for strength. So a grid spacing sheet is basically a cheat sheet you use when setting up your bullet journal. You use it as a reference so you don't have to count the grids every time. For example, I typically divide my page into 8 blocks across 2 pages. Sometimes I do 2x4, sometimes 4x2, and occasionally I divide the page by 3. So this sheet is very helpful for setups. And there we go. I think the size is perfect this time. I'm gonna give it a bit of color. I've got these markers ready and I chose brown tones because I plan to use this sheet for quite a while. Brown tones are probably the safest choice so I don't get tired of the colors. I'm gonna put both vertical and horizontal grids on these sheets. I start by writing down the grid numbers on both sides, one for the vertical and then I turn it 90 degrees and do the horizontal grids. The journal I'm using is the Paper Ideas Dotted A5 notebook, which has 37 vertical grids and 26 horizontal grids. But if you're using different brand or size of notebook, your numbers might be different, just a heads up. I'm using a Sakura Pigment Macron pen to write down the grid numbers. This one is the 005, which has a 0.2mm tape because I need it to be very thin to fit in every grid. Let's mark out the necessary lines first and then we can do the decorative touches afterwards. So I've got all my numbers now. I always start with the bigger boxes, first halves, then thirds, then fourths, and so on. So I'll do 2 18s with one gap in the middle. Next, we divide the page into thirds. This time I'll do 11, 12, and 12 with one gap between each box. And if I don't want a gap, I can easily make it 12, 12, and 13 based on these counts. So I don't need another version for that, easy as that. To divide the page by 4, I'll do 8, 9, 9, and 8. That's with gaps. The top and bottom boxes will be one grid smaller, but if I want to, I can always go outside the grid and draw slightly bigger boxes. Plus, the bottom box usually covers Saturday or Sunday when I typically have less to write, so I don't mind it being smaller. And after marking this out, I also write how many grids there are next to each line, just as a reference in case I need to double check. And because I divide my page into folds very often, I'm going to do another version with no gaps. And this time it will be 3 9s, leaving 10 grids for the bottom box. It always looks better if the heavier box is at the bottom, right? Oops, I made a tiny mistake here. Definitely not ideal since I want to use this sheet for a long time, but things happen and we have solutions. I tried covering it with a white gel pen first, didn't quite work, so now I'm using white acrylic marker. Covered the mistake perfectly, I'm happy. And as I was making the sheet, I suddenly realized, why haven't I ever tried 8 horizontal boxes? That would be pretty cool to have 8 long slots across the 2 pages. And if it's 8 long boxes, I definitely won't need gaps in between. So I'm going to do 5 5s and 3 4s. Hopefully it's easy enough to understand, but I'm sure you know what I mean as soon as you see the result. And as this one is done, I'm thinking about another tweak. I can sometimes combine Saturday and Sunday into one block, so I only need 7 horizontal boxes. I'll draw this version next to the 8-box version as well, but I only need to adjust the bottom 2, making them 6 grays each, and the top 5 boxes will stay the same. I think that also totally makes sense because combining Saturday and Sunday might need more space, and the other larger one can be used for a weekly review. Now I'll start with the double box again. It's pretty straightforward, but I still want to mark it here, so it's a complete ruler or tool. And for the thirds, it'll be 3/8 with 2 gaps in between them, and just like the vertical thirds, I won't do a no gap version because it's easy enough to count based on this one. And next, I'll divide it by 4. I don't think I'll use this layout much, but I'll draw it up here anyway. It'll have to be 2 6s and 2 7s with no gaps. I'll leave the 6 on either side, so if I want, I can use the empty space on the sides to make the outer boxes slightly bigger. Alright, it's now pretty much done. And if I want to add more later, there's still space. I'm so happy with the size this time, it's so much better. I use my bullet journal mostly for reflections. I need quite a bit of writing space, so my blocks can't be too small. But I think these setups would fit most layouts anyway because I use 2 pages across for each weekly spread. And I think that's what most bullet journalers use as well. So hopefully this will give you some ideas too. Now I'll glue the 2 layers together so it stays strong. I'm putting on lots of glue so it's solid, and hopefully it lasts me at least until the end of the year. Compared to the old boring sheet, this time I'm drawing by hand instead of using a ruler to give it a more fun and relaxed look. Most of my spreads are done freehand, and I really prefer that over using a ruler actually. And then I'll cut off the uneven edges, and while I was cutting with my scissors, I realized I actually have a paper cutter. What was I thinking? Gotta use the right tool, right? It's so much easier and quicker to cut a straight line. And the last step is to round it off with my corner rounder. Now I'll use my stamp set to put the title in the top right corner since I still have some space here. Please ignore my messy stamp set, I haven't organized these stamps in a while. Alright, there we have it. My grid spacing sheet is done. Let's take a closer look. Now I can easily slide it into the back pocket of my bullet journal. How good is that? I hope this video was helpful to some of you, and if you like my videos, please give me a like and subscribe. That would be really helpful and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Bye for now.